Imagine Manila. It's the pandemic times. That's way back 2020. I'm stranded. My funds are running low, and I have a place. I'm living with four other girls in one condominium, which is one bedroom condominium. I have no prior business experience, no baking experience, no equipment, nothing professional at the very least. I just had one thing, a cheap hand mixer, which I bought secondhand because I was fascinated by it, and I'm ever since interested in starting to bake. At that time, I already have that. Before the pandemic, I already bought that mixer. I only have that single baking equipment, a pot, a wire rack, an induction cooker, because you can't have fire-ridden cooking tops in a condominium. So we have an induction cooker and salt, very basic. During those time, jobs were really struggling. I left the job that I have been in, and I needed income. My funds are running low. And so I looked for what's available. I have my hands, I have the basic ingredients, I have a tiny kitchen shared by the rest of my roommates. We're all in all five in that one bedroom condominium. And I started selling. I was cooking 3 freshly made dishes every day, and I started baking goods. Yes, impossible, but I did. I cooked pizza, and I sold those together with the dishes that I have been making. That's how I made ends meet during that time. I cooked bread, I cooked cakes, I cooked pies during those times, all from a pot. I didn't wait to have the complete and professional equipments before I started. I did not wait for the pandemic to end before I started. I did not wait until I knew what I was doing. I was experimenting. I learned how to proof bread during those times. I wasted a lot, by the way. Since the refrigerator on our room that time isn't really working very well, and the heat in that area is sometimes unbearable. So the proofing and the fermenting of the bread just speeds up. And I waste a lot of dough because they get overproof and they ends up sour after I bake them in a pot. That's when I learned how dough behaves, how temperature plays a big role with the dough and the bread making, how timing matters. I learned how to bake cakes during those times. And yes, still in a pot. I learned how you can't really beat egg whites and expect it to be airy and, make a meringue from a greasy plastic bowl. I wasted a lot of egg whites there too before I was able to make a perfect meringue since I have the mixer, right? And during those times, I was so puzzled. I don't have anybody to ask what's happening. I just keep on mixing and mixing it. It took me like more than an hour, and I'm like, this is not working. It keeps on deflating, and I just did self study, and I asked, of course, online is a gold mine, and that's where I figured out, yes, you can't use a greasy plastic to mix those egg whites, and that's gold for me. And yeah, if there are mixers that uses plastic bowls, but there are step-by-step ways to clean them to make it better for the mixing of those ingredients. Yes, I made pies as well during those times. That time really was a turning point for me. I have learned from scratch. I have failed a lot of times. And I have learned to do things without proper equipment, honestly. And I just figured it all out as I went. And I realized the pot wasn't a limitation. Lack of professional and proper equipment wasn't really a limitation. It was the beginning of me understanding how heat works. We use induction cooker and I'm able to know the temperature of what I'm using during those times. That's one thing that helped me. It's different with fire, of course. It's induction cooker has timer and numbers. Everything I learned in that pot, the salt for the heat distribution, and I once used sugar. I don't know if I lacked sleep that time, but I used sugar and everything burnt. So, but I should have used salt for heat distribution. It's really magic how that works. A wire rack for elevation. Because just like a conventional oven, you have your goods in the center. It doesn't get in contact with the sides or the bottom of the oven. And me constantly watching and adjusting became the foundation of how I baked ever since. And it didn't came from baking classes. I learned it along the way with failures, with the use of the internet, of course. It came from a pot in a pandemic kitchen with constraints, with a lot of constraints. But it did not block the system that I built during those times. It built it up. Looking back, I realized I've always done this. SiteSync was conceived because I thought management is very tedious and because no tools are available and wasn't good enough for me. My personal operating system was conceived. It started because I think there's no existing system that fits any of my nuances. There's a lot of nuances. That thought over time during the pandemic was the first time I did it consciously. I built what I needed from all that I've had during those times. So yes, I left the business because I have to be deployed somewhere far. The equipments are still there. It's at home. It stayed there at home, but the knowledge did not. And last weekend, as I've shared with you on my previous entry, I baked 8 pies in 10 hours until 4 a.m. It's no joke. It's no joke baking. It's hard, but it's worth it. And I made all those goods with real oven this time. Real baking equipment this time. And the best thing, it came out good and people like it. That's all that matters when you're cooking and you're serving. And the pot did its job in a lot of ways, even outside the kitchen.